Imagine sitting across the table from the world's most formidable negotiator, knowing that a single misstep could alter the destiny of over 1 billion people. This is not a scene from a high-stakes thriller, but the very real situation India faces today, as it navigates an economic minefield in negotiations with the United States. The world is watching, and every decision India makes could ripple across continents, impacting everything from the price of vegetables in Mumbai to the stock market in New York. This is not just a battle over tariffs or trade deficits. It's a contest that will decide who shapes the future of global commerce, who benefits from the digital revolution, and whose voices are heard in the corridors of power. Let's rewind for a moment and set the stage. In the past 5 years, the global trading system has been rocked by an unprecedented wave of trade wars, tit-for-tat tariffs, and political brinkmanship. In a bold move just last week, President Donald Trump imposed a sweeping 30% tariff on products from the European Union, one of America's most significant trading partners. The shockwaves didn't stop there. Mexico and Canada, neighbors and key allies, were next on the list. 30% tariffs for Mexico and 35% for Canada. In total, Trump's administration has sent out tariff warnings to 24 countries. Each letter a clear ultimatum: come to the table, but only on America's terms. For India, the stakes could not be higher. With a population surpassing 1 billion and boasting the fifth largest economy in the world, India stands at a crossroads. On one hand, it is championing an ambitious modern trade agenda, scrapping the 6% equalization levy on digital advertisements to foster innovation and attract technology giants, sealing major trade agreements with the United Kingdom, and building an intricate web of 13 free trade agreements with nations across the globe. On the other hand, the United States insists that the current economic relationship is skewed and is demanding far-reaching concessions, particularly in sensitive sectors like agriculture, energy, especially oil and gas, and cutting-edge technology. Ajay Srivastava, founder of the Global Trade Research Initiative, lays out the dilemma with stark clarity. When the United States can slap tariffs on even its closest partners like the European Union and Mexico to extract quick deals, India should not expect a fair and balanced agreement. We must guard against accepting American demands that would undermine the livelihoods of Indian farmers and the backbone of our domestic industry. These words serve as a sobering reminder. Trade negotiations are not just about economics, they are about national priorities, social stability, and the trajectory of development for generations to come. But the situation is growing more precarious by the day. Washington's message is blunt and uncompromising. Lower your tariffs, buy more American goods, or suffer the consequences of punitive tariffs. Unlike previous administrations, Trump's negotiating team is offering precious little in return. Due to the lack of congressional authority, the United States cannot reduce its own tariffs. The only bargaining chip is a promise to roll back the so-called Liberation Day tariffs that were imposed under emergency powers earlier this year. This creates an asymmetric playing field, where only America's partners are expected to make sacrifices, while Washington keeps its own markets tightly protected. India's negotiating team is preparing for another round of talks in Washington this week, aiming to hammer out a bilateral trade agreement and an interim deal to bring down reciprocal tariffs. But a troubling question hangs in the air. Even if an agreement is reached, can India trust the United States to honor its commitments? As history has shown, with the Trump administration, no deal is truly set in stone. President Trump has already threatened to impose an additional 10% tariff on the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, if he believes they are pursuing what he deems anti-American policies. The message is unmistakable. In this new era of economic nationalism, all bets are off, and unpredictability reigns supreme. So, India stands before its greatest trade dilemma in modern memory. Should it hold firm, risking American wrath and the possibility of an escalating trade war? Or should it concede ground, potentially sacrificing the livelihoods of millions of Indian farmers, small businesses, and workers in exchange for temporary stability? A recent report from the Global Trade Research Initiative puts it succinctly. India must weigh the strategic value of engagement against the risks of an imbalanced deal. The decision is fraught with complexity, and the consequences will be felt not just in boardrooms and government offices, but in the homes and fields of ordinary people. Let's explore what could happen if India chooses to stand its ground. Refusing to yield to American pressure could trigger a dramatic realignment in the global trade order. Negotiations might grind to a halt, prompting the United States to retaliate with harsh, punitive tariffs. This is not idle speculation. The United States has already sent tariff warnings to more than 24 countries, including economic heavyweights like the European Union and Mexico. For India, such a move could deal a severe blow to crucial export sectors such as textiles, pharmaceuticals, and agricultural commodities. Millions of jobs could be at risk, and billions of dollars in revenue could evaporate overnight. Indian farmers, already grappling with volatile global prices and unpredictable weather, would face new hurdles as their goods become less competitive in the world's largest consumer market. Yet there is another side to this story. Standing firm could send a powerful message to other emerging economies, many of which are also struggling with imbalanced trade relationships and one-sided deals. Imagine a scenario where India, Brazil, and South Africa band together to demand fairer treatment on the world stage. This could shift the balance of power, forcing even the most powerful economies to reconsider their tactics. Ajay Srivastava underscores the importance of unity. India must not accept American demands at the expense of its own farmers and industries. If we resist, others may follow. And for the first time in decades, the rules of global trade could be rewritten. Of course, the road to such a transformation is fraught with risk. If India and the United States reach a compromise, there is potential for mutual benefit. A well-calibrated agreement could usher in a new era of investment, technological collaboration, and economic growth. India has already demonstrated its willingness to modernize, as seen in its decision to abolish the 6% equalization levy on digital advertising from April 1, 2025, a move designed to attract technology firms and foster innovation. The recent conclusion of a sweeping trade agreement with the United Kingdom in May has further strengthened India's position as a credible partner on the global stage. By the end of next year, India and the European Union aim to finalize a comprehensive free trade agreement, potentially unlocking vast new markets for Indian goods and services. But even the most carefully crafted deal is not without its dangers. If negotiations collapse, the consequences could be dire. Countries might retreat into protectionism, erecting new barriers, and sparking a domino effect that fractures the global economy. As one trade analyst warns, protectionist measures can erode decades of hard-won progress in a matter of months. We saw echoes of this during the global financial crisis of 2008, when nations turned inward, leading to prolonged stagnation and job losses around the world. A new wave of economic nationalism could have even more far-reaching effects, given today's deeply interconnected supply chains and digital platforms. To better understand what's at stake, let's look beyond the headlines. Trade is not just an abstract contest between governments and corporations. It touches every aspect of daily life. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, the medicines you rely on, and even the apps on your smartphone are shaped by the agreements signed in distant capitals. When leaders negotiate trade pacts, they are deciding which industries will flourish and which will struggle, which innovations will reach consumers, and which markets will remain off-limits. For families across India and the world, these choices can translate to higher grocery bills, unpredictable job prospects, and changes in the quality and availability of products. For business owners and entrepreneurs, the stakes are equally high. Shifting tariffs and evolving trade rules can make or break entire industries overnight. A small manufacturer in Bengaluru might suddenly find their products priced out of the American market, while a tech startup in Hyderabad could see new opportunities open up in Europe or Southeast Asia. The lesson is clear. In an era of uncertainty, adaptability is the key to survival. Companies must diversify their supply chains, explore new markets, and stay vigilant to policy changes in both New Delhi and Washington. The ripple effects extend far beyond commerce. Trade policy shapes everything from employment patterns to the pace of technological innovation. When countries impose tariffs or restrict imports, it can drive up costs for manufacturers, limit consumer choice, and slow the spread of new ideas. Conversely, well-structured agreements can lower prices, improve access to critical goods, and foster a spirit of international cooperation. The stakes are especially high for emerging economies like India, where millions are striving to escape poverty and build a better future through education, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Let's not forget the historical parallels. In the late 1990s, the world watched as China negotiated its entry into the World Trade Organization. The stakes then were seismic, as China's integration transformed global supply chains and lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty. Today, India faces a similarly pivotal moment. The choices it makes now, whether to resist pressure or seek compromise, will determine not only its own trajectory, but also the broader direction of global trade for decades to come. Expert perspectives abound. The Global Trade Research Initiative, in recent reports, has urged caution. India should not rush into any deal under pressure, nor should it accept terms that undermine its long-term interests. The goal must be a balanced agreement that promotes efficiency, protects vulnerable sectors, and opens doors for future growth. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has echoed this sentiment, emphasizing that India will not make any deal under the shadow of artificial deadlines or external pressure. These words resonate deeply in a world where quick fixes often come at the expense of lasting progress. It's important to recognize the complexity of the negotiations themselves. The United States is seeking not only lower tariffs from India, but also guarantees of increased purchases of American agricultural products, oil, gas, and aircraft. Even countries with which the United States enjoys a trade surplus, such as Australia, are being pressed for additional commitments, including expanded imports of beef and other goods. This approach has drawn criticism from analysts, who warn that demanding concessions without offering reciprocal benefits risks undermining trust and stability in the international trading system. Meanwhile, India is not sitting idle. Over the past decade, it has built a robust network of 13 free trade agreements spanning Asia, Africa, and Latin America. These deals have helped diversify India's export markets, reducing its vulnerability to unilateral actions by any single country. Strategic policy changes, such as ending the 6% equalization levy on digital ads and accelerating trade talks with the European Union, demonstrate India's commitment to integration and modernization. The recent agreement with the United Kingdom, concluded in early May, stands as a testament to India's growing influence and negotiating prowess. But how do these high-level maneuvers translate to everyday life? Consider the case of Indian cotton farmers, whose livelihoods depend on stable access to global markets. If new tariffs make their products too expensive for American buyers, entire communities could suffer. Or think about the booming pharmaceutical industry, which supplies affordable medicines to millions worldwide. Trade barriers could disrupt supply chains, delay shipments, and increase costs for patients. The cascading effects would be felt not only in India, but in hospitals and clinics across the globe. For technology companies, the stakes are equally significant. With the removal of the equalization levy, India is signaling its intent to welcome foreign investment and foster innovation. This could attract global giants like Google, Amazon, and Facebook, as well as create new opportunities for Indian startups. But any instability in trade relations could just as easily deter investment and slow the pace of progress. Looking ahead, several scenarios could emerge. In the best-case outcome, India and the United States reach a comprehensive agreement that increases bilateral trade and investment, supports innovation, and protects vulnerable sectors. This would require compromise on both sides and a willingness to look beyond short-term gains toward long-term prosperity. In a more limited scenario, the two countries might settle for an interim deal that addresses pressing issues, such as tariff reductions on select goods, without resolving underlying imbalances. Such a deal could provide temporary relief, but may leave deeper challenges unaddressed. In the worst-case scenario, negotiations could stall or collapse entirely, triggering a cycle of retaliation and escalating tensions. Countries might retreat behind new barriers, undermining decades of progress toward open markets and cooperative growth. Protectionist measures could erode trust, disrupt supply chains, and lead to slower economic growth worldwide. As history shows, these cycles are difficult to reverse, and the costs are borne by workers, families, and businesses everywhere. So what does it all mean for you, the viewer? First, it's a powerful reminder that trade is not a remote or abstract issue. It shapes the prices you pay at the supermarket, the availability of medicine, and even the choice of apps on your phone. When governments negotiate, they are deciding what opportunities will exist for you and for the next generation. Understanding these dynamics is crucial, not just for policymakers or business leaders, but for everyone who cares about their future. For business owners, this is a call to stay vigilant. The ground is shifting beneath your feet. Shifting tariffs, new trade rules, and volatile negotiations could change the landscape overnight. Now is the time to diversify supply chains, explore new markets, and pay close attention to policy developments in both New Delhi and Washington. For everyday citizens, it's important to recognize that trade policy affects every household, often in ways that are not immediately visible. Educate yourself, ask questions, and make your voice heard. Here's a crucial fact. Even if leaders sign a deal today, it is not set in stone. The current American strategy, often called the Trump model, relies on temporary tariffs that can be lifted or reimposed at a moment's notice. No agreement is truly final. This means that agility, being able to adapt quickly to new circumstances, is India's greatest asset. The world is moving faster than ever, and those who can pivot quickly will be best positioned to thrive. As we look to the future, the choices India makes in the coming months will set the stage for the next era of global trade. Will it inspire a new movement for fairness and balance? Or will it trigger a new wave of economic conflict? Will India emerge as a leader, shaping the rules of the 21st century? Or will it be forced to play by rules written elsewhere? The answers are not yet clear. What is certain is that the decisions made today will shape the world of tomorrow. As these negotiations unfold, remember, your voice matters. Stay informed, engage in the conversation, and never underestimate the power of collective action. If you found these insights valuable, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most high-stakes economic stories. And tell us in the comments below, should India stand firm in the face of American pressure or seek a pragmatic compromise? Your perspective is part of this global